Hey, you! Yes, you! Come over here, don't be shy, come, let me ask you something. Have you noticed a peculiar tune while watching Sunday's Myriad Celestia? If not, then here, take a listen.
And to sing together with the masses. I wished only for the pure land in my imagination, a place where people laugh and also slumber.
And one more time, just to make sure.
But I see that people in the land of the dreams still live in another kind of prison. Self-judging, self-doubting, self-denying, and then robbed, oppressed, exploited.
Do you hear it? I am certain that the background music in this trailer is familiar to at least some of you watching, and that's because it's a variation of Genshin Impact's main theme, which becomes apparent once you play the two side by side.
But I see that people in the land of the dreams still live in another kind of prison.
And there is more if you look later in the trailer. For instance, you can hear the Tevat Travail background music as well, which is certainly interesting. Yet it's very much expected, since both Sunday and the world of Penacony as a whole are directly analogous to the story of Tevat on every metaphorical level imaginable. However, putting aside all analogies, metaphors, and symbolisms, the character of Sunday has absolutely nothing to do with anything outside of Honkai Star Rail, so far at least. Thus, we must ask, what's the point of using that music track specifically, and what message is Hoyoverse trying to convey with it? Well, this simple detail actually speaks to one of the most fundamental aspects of Hoyoverse's design philosophy, one that I've come to notice more and more the longer I've observed and played their games. You see, the trick here is that Hoyoverse are incredibly good at retelling the exact same story concepts multiple times in many different ways. And luckily, Fugue and Sunday's release presents a perfect opportunity for me to highlight what is by far one of the most prominently occurring story concepts in the Hoyoverse: the fall of Lucifer.
I was a child when I first visited the Grand Theater. I remember seeing the light behind the curtains from here and believing it to be the morning star guiding me toward the land of the dreams.
Okay, the music I talked about earlier, the music which is playing as you are listening to me right now, is called Dream Aria. Well, it has several variations and Dream Aria is one of them, so I'm gonna call it that for simplicity. Either way, it's not actually representative of the fall of Lucifer, rather, it's the theme of a traveler. And by that, I don't mean the traveler as in the traveler siblings Aether and Lumine, no. Just a traveler, a wanderer on his journey through the cosmos. But as it so happens to be, all quote-unquote travelers in the Hoyoverse can somehow be directly associated with the character of Lucifer. Something that I'm going to demonstrate using both Tingyun and Sunday in a bit. So that we are all on the same page, when I'm talking about the fall of Lucifer, I am referring to a thematic concept that can be found in many stories from many civilizations across human history. These stories will feature elements of prideful rebellion against the divine and a subsequent loss of grace leading to banishment from heaven, usually depicted as the fall. For a recent example of an East Asian story with such elements, look no further than Black Myth Wukong, an extremely good game inspired by Wu Chang'eng's classical Chinese novel Journey to the West. But perhaps the most straightforward depiction of this concept comes directly from Paradise Lost, an epic poem by the English author John Milton, which uniquely at the time featured Lucifer as a sympathetic figure fighting against the tyranny of heaven.
I shall ascend to the heavens, becoming the scorching sun. Bathed in my light, my people shall flourish while all evil shall be eradicated.
Now Lucifer, who was once an angel, is infamously associated with the evening and morning stars, both being classical poetic names for the planet Venus depending on its position in the sky, which, as it turns out, is really important in a video game called Honkai Star Rail. However, despite its renown, most people are not familiar with the origins of this association, which comes from chapter 14 of Isaiah and reads, "How have you fallen from heaven, O shining one, son of the dawn? You have been cut down to the ground, you who weakened the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mountain of assembly, on the utmost heights of the north. I will rise above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down deep to the world of the dead." This passage is extremely relevant to the characters of Tingyun and Sunday, yet as you can see from the direct Hebrew translation, it's not really talking about the devil who defied God. Instead, Isaiah is taunting the king of Babylon, Nabuchodonosor II, for his prideful ambition in thinking that he could rise to the heights of heaven. The term Lucifer was added 400 years later by Saint Jerome in his Latin translation of the original text, where he used it to replace the word Hillel, meaning shining one, with Lucifer, meaning light bringer, and then proceeded to call Nabuchodonosor the morning star in reference to Venus, the star of the Babylonian goddess Ishtar, whom the king worshipped. So Saint Jerome never intended for Lucifer to become synonymous with the angel who rebelled against God when he used it in his translation. But through a series of historical misinterpretations with other passages over hundreds of years, people somehow headcanoned that Lucifer was the devil's name when he was an angel. In reality, there is no one called Lucifer. That word is simply what the planet Venus is known as in Latin when it's the morning star during the dawn. Due to its loneliness as the only shining object other than the moon right before dusk and dawn, Venus was always used for navigation purposes by travelers in ancient times. Funny enough, this archetype of a lonely star is even more fitting with Fugue and Sunday compared to a fallen angel. This is because the image of the morning star shining alone in the vast expanse of the early sky resonates with the idea of a lone traveler embarking on a solitary path, something that is heavily emphasized in the death and rebirth of our two characters of interest.
Whether it's us merging or one of us disappearing, I'll leave the tuning to fate, and see if I can embrace all that I detest. Only then will I truly be able to walk among the living, in their world. But what if you can't do it? Well, that's out of my hands. It will just prove that I'm still the same person. The person who always disappoints his sister.
It's abundantly clear that internal struggle is the dominating theme of the Trailblaze mission, a new venture on the 8th Dawn, as both the mission's main characters, Sunday and Tingyun, go through what is essentially an identity crisis with their past selves. While Tingyun tries to come to terms with what Nanook's Lord Ravager took from her and embrace the new version of herself, Sunday's struggle is not against an external foe but against the reflection of his own flaws, his past self. What I find really cool about this Trailblaze mission is that it takes advantage of Penacony's Dreamscape to visually display the aforementioned internal struggles of the two main characters using a few concepts from Jungian psychology, namely individuation, the shadow, and the persona. The mission starts off following Sunday, who has now become a fugitive and notably does not have his iconic halo, along with his Pepeshi friend, Mr. 1 Week, attempting to patch a few distortions in Aideen Park using their tuning abilities. Sunday explains that these distortion echoes are remnants left behind from when he attempted to control the Dream of the Harmony using the embryo of philosophy. Thus, he felt obligated to take responsibility and help clean his messes up, an act which 1 Week scoffs at and makes fun of by calling him Mr. Workday. Soon after, Sunday comes across Tiang, who easily sees through the former's disguise and then swiftly proceeds to threaten him with gravitational disintegration. Naturally, Sunday expresses his surprise that the Astral Express were still on Penacony, to which Welt explains that the crew were tasked on their way with escorting a certain lady back to her home world. And when Welt takes Sunday and Mr. 1 Week to meet her, they discover that this lady is none other than an entire colony of Tingyuns. What's that?
I heard you like Foxians! Well, guess what? We now have a supply of fluffy tails for everyone! Hurry up and take advantage of this booming economy to invest in Fugue Coin! Fugue Coin! The fastest growing Bitcoin in the entire world! Seize your opportunity and pump into Fugue Coin right now! I assure you that this is not a scam!
Check the link in the description for your Fugue Coin starter pack with 20% off on your first pump and free 1000 coins. When signing up, make sure to check accept all and ignore the fine print. Eventually, Welt, Sunday, and 1 Week find Trailblazer and March 7th, who were keeping Miss Tingyun company. Of course, the two are flabbergasted to see Sunday, and the Trailblazer swiftly proceeds to threaten him with
gravitational disintegration.
Anyway, the reason behind the overabundance of Tingyuns lies in the fact that when she was hanging out with the Trailblazer and March, the three of them fell into the prank of a Pepeshi who offered them laughter-inducing candies in his Try Not to Laugh challenge.
You laugh!
Due to the recent mental and physical trauma she suffered at the hands of the Antimatter Legion, the Pepeshi's laughter candies triggered Tingyun's hypersensitive mind, causing scattered memory fragments of her collective identity to dissociate and become entities themselves inside the Memoria world of Penacony's Dreamscape. In other words, all the Tingyuns are manifestations of different memories based on moments from Tingyun's past, induced by her vulnerable emotional state. Only through gathering all these memories together can Tingyun be whole again, which the developers literally show us visually to hammer in the point with the help of Sunday's, 1 Week's tuning. This theme of internal struggle finds its roots in Jungian psychology, particularly the concepts of the shadow. For both Tingyun and Sunday, the shadow represents the parts of themselves they either cannot accept or have yet to reconcile with. The shadow is not inherently evil, rather it is a necessary counterpart to the persona, containing the unacknowledged and repressed aspects of the psyche. Speaking of 1 Week, in case you didn't tell from his name, 1 Week, as in the 7 days of the week, towards the end of a new venture on the 8th dawn, he is revealed to be a manifestation of Sunday's persona, the same stately, proud, and refined version of Sunday whom the Nameless confronted in the past, the same one who attempted to become the sun and then fell from the heavens. The reason he exists is because Sunday succumbed to the same Try Not to Laugh challenge from the Pepeshi who tricked Tingyun, March, and the Trailblazer, where the laughing candy caused Sunday's self to split into its two primary halves, his persona, 1 Week, and his shadow, Workday. This also means that 1 Week's initial form is very likely an imitation of that Pepeshi who tricked them all. In Tingyun's case, her fragmented memories serve as literal manifestations of her past. Each version of herself represents a piece of her identity, torn apart by Fantilia and forced to exist in isolation. Through this process, Tingyun's journey becomes a reflection of Carl Jung's idea of individuation, the integration of fragmented parts of the self into a unified whole. The newly reborn Fugue does this under the guidance of Ruan Mei, who acts as Tingyun's mentor, in many capacities by the way, both mentally and physically, since Ruan Mei effectively resurrected Tingyun from the dead. And for all intents and purposes, Tingyun did partially die. In her own words,
"I've heard about what happened to you on the Xianzhou, and I've got to admit that Fantilia's disguise was so perfect it was like another me tricking everyone. That thought has me filled with sorrow. As if a piece of my life had been stolen away, and I had no part in it."
Sunday's battle, on the other hand, is not with a shattered memory, but with a part of himself he despises, 1 Week. Interestingly, the Sunday we the player follow is his shadow, Workday, which as Jung describes are the repressed and disowned qualities of the conscious self. This narrative choice by the developers is perhaps done to paint Sunday in a more favorable light for the audience, a lost soul wandering the land of the dead in hopes of being reborn again in the waking world.
In this world, there are paths beyond waiting for us to explore. Even though I lacked the talent to pilot the star skiff and wasn't much of a warrior, I still chose to travel around with the Merchant Guild. Even to this day, this thrill still courses through me.
That hasn't changed?
Never. Now I can embark once more on my journey as a traveler of no return, exploring the paths that lie beyond.
As discussed earlier, Ting Yun's rebirth was not done through a direct confrontation with herself as Sunday did, but rather by reclaiming and piecing together what was stolen and shattered. Regardless, it's undeniable that by taking a portion of her past, Phantilia left permanent marks on Ting Yun's present. Her wounds, which she calls the marks of ruin in reference to the Eon of Destruction Nanook, are a constant reminder of her death. But they also become a source of purpose, as she begins to reconcile her loss and embrace the new future she will now walk to aid the Xianzhou Alliance against the Antimatter Legion.
Survival or destruction is no longer a choice for you. They both now grow along the same path. And only by walking this path will you break through the darkness and arrive at my side.
Ruan Mei explains that Phantilia's usage of Ting Yun's body contaminated it with Nanook's path of destruction to a point beyond repair, and so she is going to have to live with it for the rest of her life. To help her body adapt and prevent the resurgence of destruction, Ruan Mei modified Ting Yun's tail. Now, she does not elaborate on what those modifications are, but we can reasonably ascertain them with a little bit of logical deduction. With Ruan Mei's modifications, Ting Yun can now have up to 9 tails.
Oh, what's that? I heard you like Foxians! Well, guess what, Buster? We now have a supply of fluffy tails for everyone! Hurry up and invest in Fuguecoin before—
The 9 tails, from a surface-level design perspective, are a very clear nod to the mythical 9-tailed fox from East Asian folklore and mythology. I kinda already made a video about the usage of these foxes in Genshin Impact if you are interested. In Honkai Star Rail though, we cannot really mention number 9 and then brush over it. 9 has a super significant meaning in this game, since this number is literally the name of an Aeon. IX is the Roman numeral for 9, and IX is the Aeon of Nihility, so it cannot be a coincidence that Nihility is the path which Ting Yun now follows. But why? Well, based on Acheron, who is an emanator of 9, the Lord of Silence, the power of Nihility can nullify the influence of all other paths in its vicinity. That's why Acheron was able to cut through Anna's dream so that the Trailblazer could reach Sunday's embryo of philosophy. She momentarily nullified the power of order. This is an incredibly useful property to consider if you are a genius biologist trying to resurrect a person whose body has been completely consumed by destruction. Therefore, the modification which Ruan Mei applied to Ting Yun's tail must have involved implementing the power of Nihility to it in order to counteract the influence of destruction on her body, hence why she now has 9 tails in imitation of the Lord of Silence, 9. This is such a cool usage of Ting Yun's fluffy tails, but it gets even cooler. The new path paved for Ting Yun through circumstance has become her morning star, guiding her on her journey just as Venus guided travelers in the ancient past. And indeed, with the help of Ruan Mei, Ting Yun herself is now a star. Take a look at her ultimate animation, and you know what, let's pause it right here. Although you can easily argue that Ting Yun's tail takes the form of a blooming flower, when I first saw this animation I immediately thought this is a star incinerating the enemies, which turned out to be the case because if you check the ability's name, it's called Solar Splendor Shines Upon All, where the word solar indicates the sun and the sun is a star. Furthermore, you recall earlier when I talked about how Isaiah in the Bible uses the moniker, O Shining One, Son of the Dawn, as an indirect reference to the Babylonian goddess Ishtar, since the subject of the sentence is King Nabucodonosor II, who in that era would have upheld the worship of Ishtar. In fact, we have historical evidence that he did. So Isaiah is using Ishtar's characteristics to taunt Nabucodonosor. He's basically calling him Nabucodonosor, son of the morning star, the star of Ishtar. And when it comes to Venus's association with Ishtar, the planet is depicted as the legendary 8-pointed star. Now, hold on, relax. Drink your orange juice and eat your Snickers. You're not you when you're hungry. When Tingyun brandishes her tails during her ultimate, she creates a star with all 9 of them. This makes sense since she is a celestial fox or a sky fox from Chinese mythology, which is a spirit fox that gets its 9th tail, turns golden, and ascends to the heavens as a divine beast. However, upon taking a closer look, you will notice that 8 out of Tingyun's 9 tails are well defined, while one of them is kinda there. It's there, but, you know, it's a little bit shy. Therefore, and trust me, I know how copium this sounds, given that only 8 of her 9 tails are properly visible, one could say that Tingyun's tails take the form of the 8-pointed star of Ishtar, Venus, the morning star.
There are many such people on Penacony. Failure is like the setting sun to a dream chaser. It's something that happens every day. I believe they all have the willpower to start anew. Especially after receiving a smile from you, Miss Robin. Failure may be a good thing for someone like that. Being able to reflect on one's actions is a valuable quality to have.
Immediately, the most blatant and most well-known parallel that Sunday's story has in Hoyoverse's other games is with the journey of Scaramouche from Genshin. Both are similar in the manner of the rebellion against the divine and pursuit of ascension into godhood. Scaramouche attempted to usurp Boer's wisdom, while Sunday attempted to usurp Sheep's harmony. Sunday wanted to become the sun, the only star in the sky, so that in his light the people would only see the perfect dream of the order. And according to Boer, Scaramouche sought to become the new moon, the answer to everything, to remove all that divides and differentiates. Furthermore, both characters are initially allied with men symbolized by corvids, whether it is Il de Torre with Scaramouche or Gopher Wood with Sunday. Scaramouche, through his alliance with the Sumeru Academia, siphoned the memories of the people to become the everlasting Lord of Arcane Wisdom, a manufactured god whose foundation is built upon the fragmented lives of others. Similarly, Sunday takes possession of Dominicus and transforms it into the harmonious choir, the Great Septimus, drawing upon the collective dreams of the Oak family's 107,336 souls to unite everyone in Penacony to the tune of his symphony. In the end, just like the romanticized tale of Lucifer, the rebellious morning star falls from grace, losing all semblance of divinity, leaving behind a lonely traveler on his path to be reborn. And for this traveler to finally be able to reach the world of the living, he must first defeat his biggest enemy, himself. On that note, after failing to usurp Sheep's harmony on Penacony, the one who freed Sunday from his captivity, the one who set him out on his journey, is Madame Bonajade. Or more commonly, Jade from the IPC's 10 Stonehearts, a woman who uses serpent imagery all over her design. Now, snakes symbolize a myriad of different things across many cultures, and more often than not, they can mean multiple different things in the same culture depending on the context. However, given how a new venture on the 8th Dawn is so heavily focused on the ideas of the lone morning star, the fall, and lost travelers with no home, it's pretty clear that the serpent here is supposed to be a symbol of sin. The one who motivated Eve, and by proxy Adam, into disobeying the will of heaven, leading to their banishment and their long journey on Earth. Sunday's fall from grace and his journey across the land of the dead as Mr. Workday, as a literal shadow of his former self, is indicated through the absence of his halo, the symbol of his divinity which he cast away. This gift from the heavens that he discarded takes the form of his persona, One Week, the version of Sunday who attempted to become the sun, the true star of the morning sky, the giver of light and life, the proud angel consumed by his dream and ambition.
Have you ever seen the elderly at the end of their lives? As they welcome their final moments, they invariably raise their hands, stretching their arms into the emptiness. Much like how babies also stretch their arms into the air when they are first born. Humanity flaps their wings twice as they complete their journey. Once when they are born, and once when they die. In order to flap my own wings and soar again. I will say goodbye, here, to the me of yesterday.
Thus, to move forward, Sunday challenges 1 week with Weltiang as their witness. Also, I am assuming many of you already noticed this, but Welt in this mission plays a role quite similar to that of Rowan May. He is a mentor to Sunday on the path of the Trailblaze, on his path of the Traveler, even going as far as to witness his symbolic resurrection. This dichotomy of creation and destruction with Tingyun and Sunday is essential to Hoyoverse's portrayal of internal growth. Sunday's ultimate trial, the tuning of his fate, is not a battle of brute force, but of acceptance and integration. By embracing the aspects of himself that he detests, Sunday transcends his divided existence, not by eradicating 1 week, but by merging with him. In this moment, Sunday reclaims his halo, not as the son he once sought to become, but as an angel who stood back up after his fall. His act of tuning himself doesn't just represent the unification of his identity, but also the creation of harmony. For harmony is a theme central to both his failed rebellion and eventual rebirth. I've been talking throughout this video about the Morning Star and how it relates to John Milton's romanticized tale of the fall of Lucifer, which makes sense even astronomically, since Venus is the brightest object in the sky after the Sun and the Moon, outshining other planets like Jupiter and Saturn, but while those rise high up in the sky, Venus never does. This may lie behind all the myths about deities associated with the Morning Star, proudly striving for the highest place amongst the gods and being cast down. The symbolism of the Morning Star is one that you can easily find across all of Hoyoverse's major IPs. I wanted to make a video on this Trailblaze mission to highlight this fact, since a new venture on the 8th Dawn is absolutely laced with themes that are equally applicable to Genshin Impact's Descenders, including Ether, Lumine, and the Primordial One. Both Sunday and Tingyun had to reconcile their past losses with the future journey in front of them, and by doing so, gain the most important treasure: purpose. Their stories reflect an overarching theme within Hoyoverse's philosophy, that every path, whether born of suffering, rebellion, or loss, offers an opportunity to grow, to explore the unexplored, and to redefine oneself. Through their struggles and triumphs, they embody the essence of what it means to journey not towards an end, but toward infinite possibilities. His entire life, Sunday dreamt of a paradise where the strong do not use the weak and then discard of them like garbage, where all who live can have their chance to feel the warmth of sunlight, where peace and happiness would come in abundance. Yet, when he tried to force the people into his paradise, his dream was soundly rejected. Because Sunday's paradise was one without freedom, it was an escape from life, and thus it was not earned, neither by those in it, nor by its master. Here lies the value of purpose. Whether it's Tingyun deciding to use the marks of ruin left on her in service of her people against Nanook, or Sunday learning that his paradise must be built brick by brick, they both have found their purpose. For purpose is the destination of a traveler. And so, the angel who sought to ascend to the heavens and become the shining sun was cast down from the sky. A sun no more, a fallen star with no name, now walks the path of Akivili, the Trailblaze, along with his fellow Nameless, towards the paradise not in his dream, but one he will build with his own hands. Ever moving forward, guided by the Morning Star. Honestly, given how cool Penacony has been, I am extremely excited for Amphorius. You guys do not know how much I love Greek and Roman mythologies. At any rate, we have reached the end of this video. As always, huge thanks to everyone who supports this channel on Patreon, and thank you for watching till the end. For now, I've been My Name for Now, and until the next time, always remember to travel your path of the Trailblaze.
To trailblaze means to forge ahead. Yet, you stop and spend precious time on people just passing by. All the while you believe this is the natural course of action?
That's not what I think at all. Besides, the watchmaker also made a similar choice.
And because of that, he bid farewell to the Express and never walked among the stars again in his lifetime.
Not all journeys lead to the stars. Even if we leave the Express, some trailblazing paths will still continue. You can think of it this way. The title of Nameless doesn't belong to any one person. Each individual will have their own view of what it means to walk this path, and will always try their best, no matter the situation. The goal of my trailblazing is not the unknown world, but every living being who exists under the stars. In my homeland, the name Welt means world. It suggests that each person is a world unto themselves, and that we harbor as many possibilities as the distant stars. The connections I gain on my journey are what is most precious to me. This is my way of the Trailblaze and the reason why I decided to stay here.
Why me?
Like I said before, I left my home in a hurry too. I know how you feel right now. I also know that a person will only be able to truly face themselves once they've decided to say goodbye to their past, the same way you're doing right here, right now. There was never a third person with us, was there?
I told you he'd find out.
I should have known nothing could escape your keen eyes. Since you already know one week's secret, there's no need for me to build up suspense. Let's go. We'll head straight for the finale and take our final bow in this farewell performance.